Hello BattleCats players, my name is Chance and welcome to my guide. Today we're going to be looking at an Uber, let's go. More specifically, we're going to be taking a look at Ice Cat. This cat is unlocked by playing the rare cat capsules during the Dynamites event. And honestly, it's not a bad Uber. I actually really like this cat and I think it has plenty of viable use cases. And as always, it is my hope that throughout the course of this video, and exploring really all there is to know about Ice Cat, you can make a more informed decision on how to best use this cat, as well as how to invest into them, if at all. Now let's first get started by taking a look at Ice Cat's various evolutions. Starting out with Ice Cat itself, whose description reads, "A cat was entranced by a girl hailing from the land of ice. It is frozen. Might freeze red enemies, area attack." Then at level 10, it evolves into Ice Queen Cat, whose description reads, "Forgot to mention that the cat is an external icicle. Don't think it complains much, might freeze red enemies, area attack." And then at level 30, as well as introducing some Catfruit and XP, it becomes Ice Crystal Cat. So the Ice Queen's reign grows more secure, and so does her cat companion's Crystal Shell. Freezes red enemies in place, area attack. Something I do kind of want to point out that is a little bit interesting here is based on the descriptions, it is to be inferred that the unit is actually the cat itself, not the lady sitting on top of the cat, despite how that sounds. Which is just kind of interesting. I don't know, it's one of those things where like the attack animations match with the lady on top, but the description refers to the cat, so I don't know, make your own distinction. Now then, let's discuss the pros and cons and overall performance of Ice Cat. Firstly, in its normal and evolved form, Ice Cat is considered to be a crowd controller and a mid-ranger, crowd controlling of course being any unit that inflicts really a status or knockback to an enemy. And then in true form, it becomes a crowd controller and backliner, so there is a distinction between range between the two forms, and it's actually a pretty interesting distinction. As far as pros concerned, you have fast recharge time, low cost, decent DPS while in true form, and cons consist of low health and low DPS and range when in normal and evolved. And as far as extra or other traits are concerned, you have a 50% chance to freeze red enemies and a 100% chance to do so in true form. So, a couple things I kind of want to point out here in advance. Firstly, and we will discuss this a little bit later, but that low DPS and range really isn't a big deal. It's the health that's kind of the biggest problem with this unit. It's just a very squishy unit, and while there are ways to kind of sort of mitigate that, they're not guaranteed. So if you are going to be using this, just make sure you're meat shielding properly and it should be fine. Ultimately, this unit is to be considered a crowd controller first and foremost, so do bear that in mind. Now let's check out some gameplay and talk strategy. Firstly, however, let's just touch on cost. Chapter 1, this unit will cost 2,200, Chapter 2, 3,300, and Chapter 4, 4,400. So, pretty cost-effective unit overall, certainly for an Uber. And the recharge time on this unit, especially for using cat combos, is pretty minuscule, so I actually think it's a pretty dang good Uber. As far as strategy goes, in the early game, Ice Cat kinda kicks ass. This is really due to the fact that there aren't a ton of enemies in the early game with very good range, so Ice Cat is going to be able to outrange most of them, especially with proper meat shielding. And there also happens to be quite a bit of red enemies in the game, and this is of course where Ice Cat shines. And while she is a crowd controller unit, she's not really all that reliable when you first get her. This is largely due to the 50% chance to freeze, so to completely just keep an enemy absolutely frozen with Ice Cat requires a pretty sizable stack, so it's not always worth doing so in the beginning. But she will certainly make some tricky stages a lot easier and even trivialize some of the less difficult stages. However, once you do true form Ice Cat, it becomes much, much better. Gaining 100 more range and a 100% chance to freeze basically grants her consistent uptime. This combination will go a long way towards mitigating some of the more difficult red enemies in the game, which is nice. However, just bear in mind that even in this form, the survivability really isn't all there, so proper meat shielding is still a must, and just make sure you account for that. Now then, let's brush on some cat combos. First up, we have King and Queen, which is a worker cat start level up of the small variety. It involves King Dragon Cat and Ice Queen Cat. We've actually talked about this before in the Lizard Cat video. And it grants Worker Cat with an initial +1 start to its levels. I don't really like these. I mean, I guess if you have no other cat combos and you're struggling for money, sure. But for the most part, I find a lot of the money combos to be kind of meaningless. Maybe with the exception of the accounting ups. Personally, I really like them. I understand that, like, in general, most of the money combos aren't that great. But I think out of them, the accounting combos are a little bit better. However, for the King and Queen Worker Cat start that we're talking about now, not really the best. Up next, we have Cool in the Heat. This is a freeze effect up of the small variety involving Ice Cat and Cooldown Cat, and it improves freeze duration by 10%. I actually kind of like this one, especially if you throw like Apple Cat in its true form on the roster as well. Ice Cat plus Apple Cat plus extended freeze duration just seems like a very fun combo to me. At the very least, on predominantly red stages. But I don't know, let me know what you guys think down beneath in the comment section. Now let's talk about the Catfruit you're going to need to true form this unit. You're going to need 4 purple Catfruit, which can be obtained every Tuesday, 8 red Catfruit, which can be obtained every Wednesday, 3 blue fruit, which can be obtained every Thursday, and 6 yellow fruit, which can be obtained every Friday. You're also going to need 4 epic Catfruit, which can be obtained from really any of the growing stages, with the exception of Strange and Evil. During the dual cyclone fights, it can also drop, and after you complete an ancient curse, you'll gain access to the growing epic stages for a few hours every weekend, and they can be obtained there, of course, as well. You're also going to need about 1,000,000 XP, which might or might not be a large amount, depending on which state of the game you're in. Now, while there is no official trivia on this unit, I'm just going to flash a couple of the stat screens while just talking about the video release schedule for a little bit. I've gone over this in the channel page video, so like if you actually like click on the YouTube channel and like go to the main page and then watch the video that's posted there. And I also touched on it during the July review video, but as far as the way these videos are going to be released, we're going to do essentially 100 days total of releasing the cats videos, like the cat breakdown videos, so just like this one here. And then after the 100th video is released, it's going to switch from a daily release to a weekly release. And at that time, we'll start releasing enemy videos for 100 days, and then it'll repeat the same pattern. So 100 enemy videos will be released basically every day, with the exception of the day that the cat videos are released. And then after that, it'll turn into a weekly release as well. And then once both of those are weekly releases, we'll start on individual stages and then repeat the same process essentially. After those 3 stages have all converted to weekly releases, at that point we will start kind of doing one-off videos or challenge videos, things like that. Just things focused on a little bit more entertainment. I have gotten a few questions in the comments about this, and we are going to be releasing basically all of the videos in terms of release order, not necessarily in terms of rarity or anything like that. It's just the easiest way for me personally to keep track of everything. The only exception to that is if somebody signs up for Patreon and recommends a video, at that point we'll do that video first, but overall it'll likely just be the release order. And I think that's pretty fair, is that for the most part is going to be the order you're going to encounter most cats, but we'll see. Naturally, if anyone has any insight or recommendations on how to do this a little bit differently, let me know and I'll hear it out, but this is the best way I can think of doing it consistently. Now let's check out some talents. As far as available talents go for Ice Cat, you have Survives, which adds a 28% chance to survive a lethal strike and improves by 8% per level up to 100%, for a total NP cost of 235. You have Resist Slow, which reduces slow duration by 16%, improves by 6% per level up to 70% for a total NP cost of 175. Curse Immunity for an NP cost of 100. Defense Buff and Attack Buff, which increase their respective traits by 2% per level up to 20% for a NP cost of 175 each. Now, in all honesty, you don't really need to invest into any of these. At least so long as you're properly meat shielding and not really letting enemies through. Fact of the matter is, Ice Cat has good enough range to kind of make most of these just unimportant. And seeing as how you're using them for a crowd controller, there's not really much of a point to investing into attack either. That being said, if you're going to invest in any of them, survives is probably the most important. Outside of that, maybe attack buff. However, Ice Cat also has access to Ultra Talents. You have Attack Up, which adds 10% attack power at 66% health and increases by 10% per level up to 100% for total NP cost of 285. And you have Dodge Attack, which adds a 40% chance to dodge attacks for about 0.2 seconds per level up to 2 seconds total for a total NP cost of 285. And Target Metal for an MP cost of 150. And second verse, same as the first. Virtually none of these are worth it. There might maybe be an argument for dodge attack, but that's really about it. And even then, the cost is just outrageous for all of these. I mean, maybe I'm misguided, maybe I'm wrong. If I am, let me know down beneath in the comment section, but NP is such a precious resource, and there are so many units that benefit from it, that I look at these talents and ultra talents, and I just can't really justify it in my head, especially considering the fact that Ice Cat has such good range by default that almost all of these are just unimportant. But now that you know what I think about Ice Cat, let's hear what all of you have to say about them. Monkey081HS says, Ice Cat is a good Uber for an anti-red team since her ability is to freeze reds. I could not agree more, brother. Dabu19 says, Red Freezer, very, very true. And Kabaya Nurse says, I don't think what is that cat looking at. I think this is like a question as to like, what is the cat frozen in the iceberg looking at? I mean, as far as I'm assumed, he's just looking straight ahead, but he could be looking up the skirt of the like ice lady on top of him, I guess. I don't know. Definitely think something I've never really thought too much about. And if you would like to be featured in this section, be sure to just check out the community tab and comment on the relevant posts there. And that about wraps up the video on Ice Cat. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to put them down beneath in the comment section, as well as give any advice there. And let me know what stages, if any, Ice Cat has helped you out on in the future, or how you're planning on using them. As always, thank you everyone who's watched until this point. I certainly appreciate it, and don't forget to like and subscribe because Cat God demands it.